Maybe he wasn't the problem. Maybe I was. How Muhammad Ali stayed true to himself on his path to becoming an icon. But the crux of Burns' narrative is that he wasn't always revered. In fact, for many years in the United States, Muhammad Ali was dismissed, feared, and even despised. The latter-day image of Ali is that he was flamboyant, loquacious, and audacious. A larger-than-life character who was beloved. They didn't respect him. They thought he was unpatriotic. There was a lot of racism at that time. A hero begins his Odyssey born Cassius Clay in 1942. Ali was almost the same age as Emmett Till, the 14-year-old black boy who was lynched in Mississippi in 1955. According to the film, Ali was said to be haunted by the image of Till's mutilated corpse, which his mother allowed to be photographed in an open casket at his funeral. After winning the Olympic gold medal in 1960 and turning professional later that year, Ali often listened to Louis Farrakhan's 1961 song, "A White Man's Heaven is a Black Man's Hell," but he knew to tread carefully on race because offending his group of all-white sponsors in Louisville might have damaged his chances of landing a title fight.
Throughout the 60s, though, Cassius began to find his voice, and not just to torment his opponents ahead of their fights. The late Alex Poinsett of Ebony magazine described him as a blast furnace of race pride, a pride scorched with the memories of a million little burns. Additionally, his alignment with Malcolm X and Martin Luther King Jr. ensured that he was viewed with suspicion by the white establishment in America. Read, long before Colin Kaepernick knelt, a black female athlete defied the national anthem, but after beating Sonny Liston to become world heavyweight champion in 1964, he saw no further reason to compromise his beliefs, telling the media, "I don't have to be what you want me to be. I'm free to be what I want and to think what I want to think." He soon changed his name to Cassius X, and would later change it again to Muhammad Ali and joined the Nation of Islam. As the new world heavyweight champion, Ali embarked on a 5-week tour of Africa and the Middle East and quickly realized the power of his status, but he struggled to find acceptance at home. The press is constantly trying to paint him as something other than what he actually is, explained the civil rights leader Malcolm X at the time. He is trying his best to live a clean life and project a clean image. He doesn't smoke, he doesn't drink. In fact, if he was white, they would be referring to him as the All-American boy. Defiance little Ali ever did, though, was quite as divisive as his refusal to fight in the Vietnam War. Ali was now fighting battles on multiple fronts. On February 6, 1967, he tormented Ernie Terrell in the ring because his opponent had refused to recognize his name. Ali's performance was described by sports writers as mean and malicious and a barbarous display of cruelty. But 2 months later, Ali refused to step forward when his name was called at his scheduled induction into the U.S. military, and according to the film, within hours the New York State Boxing Commission had stripped him of his license, and he was banned from boxing for 3 years. He was later sentenced to 5 years in prison and a $10,000 fine for dodging the draft. Ali was unrepentant. Why should me, and so-called other Negroes, go 10,000 miles away from home here in America to drop bombs and bullets on other innocent brown people? Ali said that he was prepared to go in front of a firing squad if his punishment required it. "I'm prepared to die," he says in the film. In the prime of his career, Ali lost more than 3.5 years in the ring, and he resorted to speaking tours on college campuses to make ends meet. He couldn't box, but he was still fighting. He used his tongue to lacerate racism and white supremacy and oppression in America, said Todd Doyd, professor of cinema and media studies at the University of Southern California School of Cinematic Arts. He became more militant, not less. He became more assertive, not less. He became more confrontational, not less. Ali was addressing Black Panther rallies and anti-war hippies, uniting disparate groups around a common cause. When he finally got his boxing license back in 1970, Ali was able to expose the racism in America and the folly of the war. NAACP lawyers discovered that the New York State Athletic Commission had licensed 244 boxers who were guilty of crimes far worse than conscientious objection, manslaughter, second-degree murder, and armed robbery among them. "We were shocked at the numbers and the range of criminal offenses," said lawyer Michael Meltzner. "It confirmed our sense that Ali had been singled out for treatment because of his identity, because of his affiliation with the Nation of Islam, and because he was a prominent black figure." Read, Jack Johnson, the black boxer who sparked race riots after world heavyweight win. As the anti-war protests grew, black American men, many who had begun to see themselves as cannon fodder in Vietnam, had slowly become disenchanted, and the war was now becoming more universally unpopular in the United States. But he'd lost some of his speed and had to learn how to take a punch, a strength that would one day become his greatest weakness. Read The Fight of the Century, a divided U.S. nation 50 years on, but 3 months later, he got an unexpected victory. The Supreme Court overturned the conviction against him. A shopkeeper ran after him in the street to break the news. In a film clip that was only discovered late in the editing process, Ken Burns says that Ali demonstrated an extraordinary awareness of his place in American history. Asked how he felt about the court's decision, Ali told a reporter, "Well, I don't know who'll be assassinated tonight. I don't know who'll be enslaved or mistreated or deprived of some other justice or equality. All I can talk about is my case. And I'm thankful that the courts recognized my beliefs and my sincerity in this case." A hero is not perfect. He's a serial womanizer, unfaithful to at least his first 3 wives, and he treats Joe Frazier and several other opponents with a kind of disdain and Jim Crow language that's inexcusable to my mind. However, Burns points out that the women in his life still regard Ali with affection. You see in their eyes the pain of that infidelity, but the love is still there. There's a kind of forgiveness and understanding that they had a chance to accompany, for a time, an extraordinary human being.
Thank you for watching. Please subscribe.